G'day guys and welcome. Behind us is my 98 Hyundai XL. Now if you've got one, now today we're going to be doing a custom, you can say, cold air intake system on this car. We're going to be incorporating the original air intake and adding another way of sending air through. So this, you know what, I don't know if it's going to help the car, but this is my way of doing it. If you're on a budget, then you know what, this might work with just common stuff that you can buy from shops or online. If you're a professional XL racer, okay, this might trigger you, this video. This is not the way to do it if you're, you know, in the actual series. But this is my way and it might work, it might not, but we'll find out by hitting the track. Let me show you guys what you need first before we get this going. Alright, so here are the things you guys are going to need. I'll tell you 3 simple things. Number 1 is insulation tape. Now this is not a priority, but it's $5. It keeps stuff cool. We're going to wrap our original air intake in this stuff. Secondly, Super Cheap Auto, but I'm not sponsored by the way, but Super Cheap Auto is flexible air intake pipe. Link is down below for this stuff. It's like $37. But as you can see, it's flexible. And the reason why I buy this stuff is because our third component, the Nugget Project's brake ducts, fit perfectly on this. Okay, a lot of people go to Bunnings, they can't find the right brake ducting size. This stuff is perfect, but this is actually going to be a cold air intake, not a brake duct. So yeah, so welcome to our engine bay. So this is our original cold air intake. There's an air box and it feeds air through. What we're doing is we're moving the battery. We're going to be putting a brake duct in, our Super Cheap Auto piping, and we're going to be drilling another hole through the air box. So it's going to have 2 forms of air going in. Your battery is an essential. You have to move this. Now if you know much about electrics, go for it, do it yourself. Let me do a diagram to explain why the battery's bad. Let's say you're using a normal cold air intake system where there's a pod filter here. Look at my hands. My hands are the air. Now as you can see, look what's happening. The battery is blocking the cold air from going anywhere. So if you have a battery in your Hyundai XL in the engine bay, you're a joker. Tomorrow, I'm not going to be a joker. So get rid of the battery. I don't want to see it, alright? Get rid of it.
Okay, so we're now going to start taking everything apart. So you want to get rid of the air box and then you want to start taking off those little catch cans on that. You don't have to, but this will make it easier to just install the insulation tape and make a, you know, cleaner kind of shape around it. And then we're going to kind of grind off all the little shards of plastic. I already drilled the holes for the air intake. And when you do, make sure you just kind of make it smooth so that all the little crumbs of plastic aren't falling back into your airbox.
Alright guys, so we haven't finished yet, but we are now about, 70% of the way of wrapping this. As you can see, very shiny, very cool. Get this done, but what's happening is tomorrow this car is going in obviously to get the battery moved, so that'd be your next step. Put this back on, battery, move it out the way, and we'll continue on with getting this setup sorted. Well, welcome back. Our battery does not exist anymore in the engine bay. It now exists in the car, in a battery box, and it's very neatly tucked away. We've wrapped our original air intake, there's holes drilled in there. So our next step, cut this out, so then that at least these 2 bolts over here can still retain some sort of use for our original air intake.
The reason why we're cutting half of the battery box out is because we need to use this area to get the ducting through and to the airbox. Now, as I did say, it's going from the bottom of the bumper towards the top of the intake, so it's a bit of a travel distance, but cut it, paint it, make it look presentable, and then you see those 2 bolts you can still use to hold your factory airbox in, and it's a perfect fit.
Okay, welcome back. So what we need to do now is basically cut a hole through the bottom of the airbox. Good time to change your air filter if you're doing this yourself. Now, as we have the flexible hose still, I've decided that I'm actually going to use a silicone hose on the end which fits on. Now, if this is laying around at home, then definitely use one. You don't have to do this, but basically what I can do is I can just cut a nice hole at the bottom and squeeze this in and kind of push the silicone up. It's flexible, so I'm going to kind of build the shape around it, so it'll kind of be more of like a large O than a normal circle. Anyway, so I'm going to now get my marker, I'm going to circle around this, and then we're going to cut it. Well, as you can see, we've now cut our hole. Just testing out the silicone fit. Now, I would recommend getting silicone instead of having to get hard plastic, which is going to have to get a perfect fit. Now this can just go over the silicone. We can put a bit of duct tape or some sort of putty to cover some of these holes up. It's not the best cut, but it does the job. And as you can see, that's a huge intake. That's definitely going to be more air efficient.
Fit in your original air intake. It should be nice and snug. Put on your ducting and make sure you have some sort of way of supporting it. Obviously I use hose clamps. And then start testing and fitting how it's going to go in. It's straight as that. Bolt in, direct. Bring the flexible hosing down into where the brake duct is, as you can see there. Attach it on and use the hose clamps to apply pressure so that it's held in nice and snug.
Now brake duct actually fits, but it's a really tight fit, and it kind of bends the plastic. So what I'm going to be doing is just getting a silicone cutout that's just a bit bigger. This will go over the brake duct, and this one's a bit small, so it's going to go inside the actual black duct, if that makes sense. And this will just be our connection.
I didn't expect to use silicone hoses, but it did make my life much easier. With the brake duct I have, you don't have to use it, but I just thought it would be more sensible rather than just trying to put more strain on it. And that was a job done.
Well, I've been in and out of the shed, as you can tell by all the shirts, but this is the final concept, and it went just as well as I expected. Our air intake is finished. Let me know what you guys think of it. I think it was pretty easy to do. What I did learn while making this was we had to use more silicone than expected. The Super Cheap Auto long flexible pipe, it did fit over the brake duct, but it was just really tight, and I was kind of forcing it in there. So I just thought using silicone would be a better option. So will this work? Look, technically this probably won't make it a performance improvement. The original air intakes are designed to get the maximum amount of basically power that they can. You can use pod filters, but I just think, you know what, adding another external piece of ducting to make more air go into that system, it's a good idea. Okay, technically it should make a difference. You won't find out without doing dyno tests and whatnot, and we're not going to go through that. We're just going to go on track, have fun, and hope it makes an improvement. But this is more of your budget DIY kind of thing. If you don't want to spend tons of money making a cold air intake system, this might be your next best option. And you know what, either way, a normal air intake is going to do its job just fine.
If you're using a Super Cheap Auto kit, you're probably best off getting a bit of silicone.
If you want more extra content, please leave a like and subscribe. Let's try to get to 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year. But thank you guys for watching. Have a fantastic day. Take care. Adios.
Okay guys, I've just released my first podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Please have a look at it. The Ludicrous P Blader talks about all the crazy adventures with cars, automotive, or true stories, a good laugh. Listen to the first episode, and if you guys like it, consider following and liking and leaving a review on my podcast.